Hello, I'm Eagle Gardens 1 on Instagram, and this is fucking Talking Shit with Eagle, episode 321. Hopefully, you guys have had an amazing Thursday. I know I certainly did. It has been a great day. We have a great gentleman here with us tonight. You've seen him around the chats as of late, and tonight we get to meet him firsthand. Redpill710, how you doing tonight? Can you tell us how you're doing and where we can find you?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, Redpill710 on Instagram. A little bit trickier to find on YouTube, probably because there's 1.5 million red pills, but just plain old red pill here on YouTube. And as far as that goes, I haven't really been uploading or uploaded at all to my YouTube channel in a very long time, just because I kind of got in the mindset of things that if there wasn't anything that I was showing excited about showing, then I thought maybe on the other end there might not be that many excited about anything that might be just the same old, or too mundane or boring or not interesting enough, and just other life struggles and stuff like that. But on Instagram side of things, a little bit more active. I got a dog a little bit more than a year ago, and I always post pictures of anything that I get that I'm dabbing on, because that is a little bit more exciting on that end. Kind of a little bit of I wouldn't say concentrate snob, when it actually turns out to be that I'm probably more of a flower snob than concentrates. That just has to do with whatever however my body works when I inhale smoke or concentrates. Even to like a lesser grade quality concentrate goes down more smooth and seems to have a less harsh reaction than, even if there's one thing wrong about flour, it doesn't burn right, or it has a smell or a funny taste to it, little any bit of harshness, like hotness to the way it burns and stuff like that. For whatever reason, I uh, don't really dig that. Um, you will see a little bit more cannabis posting as times go by. One, I'm back in Wisconsin. I'm born in Wisconsin, and for the past 6 years before the pandemic, I was out in Colorado. Um, didn't Partially why I would get good concentrates is because just the market and that was made it readily available. So when it came down to producing medicine, as in growing, I kind of didn't have to per se, or didn't have the need to. That's more of where the breeding came in to play. Uh, I bought a tent probably in winter of 2015, either right after Christmas or right after New Year's. Got clones from my buddy. Uh, uh, Started a bunch of seeds. Started Pandora's Box. I started Herkel. Started a um, Blue Power from Sin City Seeds, and pretty much went through it. And at this time, I don't even know if I had an Instagram at this time, or definitely wasn't posting. Definitely didn't have I wasn't posting to the YouTube channel yet, so that pretty much didn't get documented. And then after that, uh, the next time I grew was mainly because I used to have a show with another person here on YouTube named Surrounded by Keith. He had one main type of show on his channel that was getting to know cannabis YouTubers, a little bit like this show, partially more on the weed tube side, as far as people that would just primarily smoke, smoke videos, dab videos, slab dabs, 1 gram dabs, just stupid kind of crazy shit like that. That's a lot of people who was on there. And then he would also interview growers too, people from more of the grow tube side of things. But we did a show together, getting to know cannabis. And for the first about 30 episodes, all we did was read and discuss Marijuana Botany by Robert Clark. And it came like, I don't know, midway through that to where, you know, if you don't have a huge resume or Instagram thing where people can go to and kind of see what you're doing, people kind of get skeptical of the information that you're putting forward, and they might think, what are you talking about growing so much for if you don't even grow, or where are your plants and this kind of thing. So at that time, I was really big into what I was seeing with CMH. So then I bought a CMH light and then started documenting what grow videos I have on my channel right now. That and way back on Instagram, that same grow was documented. I got seeds from another buddy. It was Frost Hammer. It was a ocean grown seeds, Vader's company. It was something from their lineup crossed to a 9-pound hammer. My buddy gave me those. He gave a few other homies those. And I was really the only one that did any good with them. Everyone else that cracked them said that they got more males than females. And on my end, I had 3 out of 4 females. And I just thought there was so many people that love 9-pound hammer that the best thing to do with that one male is to just let it pollinate the garden. And really, like I said, I wasn't growing for the intention of waiting for my next harvest so I could continue having medicine. I was doing it mainly to document it and just have something there so people could see. And it's mainly so it's like I'm not bullshitting or whatever, making stuff up, or I don't making it seem like I'm telling people how to grow and then I don't grow myself or don't know what I'm talking about. But all I was doing is reading marijuana botany. I mean, we can get into that later on in the story, but I'm pretty sure 90% of the people, or probably 95% of the people listening, already know who that is and probably understand how important he is. And, Robert Connell Clark, marijuana botany, and a few other things he does. I think it was taxonomy and ethnobotany of cannabis. That was more recent, the recent book that he wrote. But I mean, it's just where it started for me. I mean, so from that point on, more things happened where I just kind of got, I wouldn't say less passionate, but I would say less motivated. I had other seed runs that I did. I did Space Dog from TGA. I did had some clones. I had Clementine for a while. But I just, for me, it kind of, I guess what I'll go into next is what put me in that mindset to kind of be less productive. Like I said, I was in Wisconsin. I'm from Wisconsin. I'm back in Wisconsin now. Probably around July of 2009. I got back from a family wedding in Washington. I wanted to smoke there. I had someone try to hook me up, but I don't know. It kind of just weirded out the family members, and I couldn't get away from them to do it. I came back there, and I had basically a clean, involuntary tolerance break, you'll call it, going out to Washington. And coming back, and the first morning that I woke up, I have a cousin that travels back and forth from here in Wisconsin and California. He's out in California now. He is 9 years older than me, and like pretty much for as long as I have been smoking weed at the same pace he has been. He's a little bit more ahead of me, being a little bit older, but we definitely love weed to the same amount. So he hits me up and tells me that he's got a strain Vortex. And most of the time he wouldn't ever go out of his way to tell me he's got a certain strain, because he knows that I'm going to hit him up anyways, asking for weed. And he'll just tell me what it is when I go to pick it up. But he's telling me about it and so it kind of leads me to believe that it's going to be something special. And I go over, I end up getting it, bring it back, and I had no idea about Subcool at this moment. The only weed that I've grown at this time, like I said, it was 2009. I've only ever grown weed in my backyard 1 or 2 times previous to this. And there's a story to go along with that, how my dad was cool with me doing that. But I'm with one of my homies, and we go to my garage where we used to smoke, and he wants to check out the weed, and he's like kind of like, oh, you're excited about this weed, it's not gonna be anything. And he kind of grabs the bag and he opens it, and he's like, smells like baby poop. And like I said, I don't know, I didn't know anything about Subcool, but when I ended up figuring out more about this strain and how to track it down and how I wanted to buy seeds and grow it, because it kind of blew my mind, and I'll express that in a moment. But I first wound up on Attitude Seed Bank. That's how I found where to buy TGA seeds at this time. This was back in the day when they had the original seed packs with the planes and the seeds dropping. And I found Vortex, and I read the description. And for taste and smell, he writes mango, Snapple, and baby poo. That's in the description. And I was like, damn. So I know a lot of people like to just write names on bags and try to pass it off as something that it's not. But that kind of be like, oh, well, that is a good connect, because that's exactly what my buddy said it smelled like. And the effect is what hit me. That's how I fell in love with it, because for me, it's the strain that everyone goes back to when they talk about their first experiences with weed, and which weed that was the best ever. And maybe it's intangible right now. It's like one of those things you can't get back to, and everyone would wish if you could. I took one hit of it, and I had like a little about this same size mini bong as this is a dab rig. It was probably no taller than this, and I had a little tiny bowl that we would do snaps out of, just one single pack in the bong in the bowl, and then hit it and do as big of a hit off of it as you can, and most of it goes down into the bong. Anyways, that's particular what device we used for this. And I went first, and I had 2 of my other buddies with me, and I hit it, and it affected me in a way where I saw the face on my friend change. And then he was like, whoa, if it's hitting my buddies so hard, I can't wait to see what it does to me. Because I got a pit stop for a little. I should have started off with this. The number one thing that I struggle with is I'm blind in my right eye. I was born with a detached retina that they couldn't fix. In my left eye, I have glaucoma. Okay, so we'll get into glaucoma and the relation to weed, and you can make the connections there, but that's probably why it was acceptable for me to be doing this at a young age. We'll go to prehistory before that too. So my buddy's so excited to hit this based on my reaction to it, because we smoke weed together all the time. We get good and bad weed, more or less. With good weed, have the same reaction to it. This weed was different. It changed my life. It made me immediately think and look at the bag and think that once this weed's gone, I'm never going to see it again. Like I said, whoever my cousin had to connect to that was getting that, it lasted for a while. It lasted from, like I said, in July, probably into the very beginning of September. But I didn't know that at the time. I was just scared to lose it with the 1/4 ounce that I had then. So my buddy smokes it. He gets all giggly. He passes it to my buddy that smelled it and said it smelled like baby poop. He hits it. We all start giggling. We're all basically tripping and slapping each other in the knee. poking at each other, laughing at each other, making fun of each other. We're all getting red in the face. And just with one hit of this weed, we all kind of were astonished. So I'll sidetrack again to where I'll connect this to my first experience with weed. Pretty sure if any of us have had parents that smoke, at some point in time, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, you catch on to something that your parents are smoking something else other than a cigarette. In my case, it was the smell of it and where my mom stashed it. And there was like a little center console container or a pop-out cup holder, or maybe the tray or the top or what holds the cup holder in popped out. There's like a little cavity, and store a bag in there and put the cup holder back on. I'm like, Mom, what's that? And she's, she, in my mind, I don't know if this is correct to my memory now, but in my mind, I thought she said, it's weed. Don't pay attention, or something like that. And then later on, there was a family get together. I can't remember which one, time of the year. Maybe it was Halloween, because I don't remember it being cold. I catch on to a family circle being formed, a smoke circle being formed in my aunt's old house, what would be her tanning bedroom, a room that was, a fucking commonly shared family tanning bedroom that was like ocean themed and Florida themed. They're all in there and they close the door so I can't get in. And I'm like sniffing the crack of the door because it's the same smell that I smelled with the bag of weed that my mom threw in the cup holder. And I can hear them talking. And then they're like, hey, let's let him smoke. And then they're like, no, he's too young. And then they're like, but he's got glaucoma. It's good for him. And they're like, no, he's still too young. And there's other interactions where my mom would have people over, and I'm 9 years old, and I have a 5-year younger than me sister, and it was past the kind of point where my mom was kind of like cool, like I said, it was letting me know things and not hide things from me, but not so much with my sister. She was still younger and not conscious of all that kind of shit. And there used to be times where I would sneak out into the living room when my mom would have company over, and they'd either be playing cards in the living room or downstairs playing pinball. And once in a while, they wouldn't be paying attention, and I'd find like a pipe sitting on the table, and I'd bring it to one of my mom's friends or my cousin's friends, and I'd be like, what is this? And my buddy or my cousin's buddy took it from me. And you're like, oh, that's my mom's pottery. Thanks. Here, give it back. And had weed encounters as a kid. And maybe about 2 years later, 10 and 11, right around the time of my 11th birthday. Can't pinpoint it then, but where my mom was staying had, like I said, a little bit older group of kids than me, people that were like 7 or 8 years older than me, like high school seniors, that age. I don't want to get too into details right off the first bat of you or your audience meeting me about what life, the upbringing I had going on. Basically, it was kind of oh boy. Well, I'm gonna assume that there's a lot of people that can relate to what went on, but my mom didn't do just weed, messed around with a lot of other stuff, a lot of neglect at this particular time going on, and I would, for periods of time, be all by myself, either in this house or out on the streets with this older group of kids that would kind of basically be my babysitters. That's at least what they told people when I would be with them and ask where my mom was at or whatever. But they had no they weren't looking over me and making me follow rules or do things and, having me, telling me what to do or making me try to be one of my parents, or they weren't really babysitters, like I said. I would just hang out with them. They would let me hang out with them. Had the house open to myself, and sometimes they would walk me to and from school. And there were times where before school, they would go to meet up with someone to smoke a joint or a blunt. And they thought it was funny to hotbox me or blow smoke in my face, which I let them because I thought it was cool. And like I said, with the two previous stories, my interactions with weed as a kid, my parents, like I said, they knew it was good for glaucoma, but they didn't just want to like all outright just let me start smoking and packing bowls and fucking doing that kind of shit just then and yet. Well, these kids didn't have a problem with it. And one weird ass occasion where most people, it's one of those things where most people remember where they're at on the day of 9/11, but that was one of the peaks of me being like neglected for a long period of time, to where the whole day I got walked by, like I said, this group of kids to school. This is in 2001. Obviously, I'm 11 years old in 5th grade, and they let school out early. Pretty much nationwide, or at least where I was, they let school out early, and no one was there to pick me up. So I walked home, and there was a lot of weird shit going on. Maybe a foreshadowing of a lot to come. 2 houses down from where I lived, right when I was getting back home, I saw a dude throwing up into the bushes from his front porch. It was like a house that first thing comes to my mind is like a Forrest Gump house, that kind of house is mama's house or whatever, with a big front porch, the whole length of the front of the house. And he's over the railing of it throwing up, and I'm looking at him, and he looks at me and he's like, "Don't do drugs, kid." And he goes right back to throwing up all over the place. And I go home, and I don't know how long it goes by, but I end up meeting with these kids. It's already nighttime by now. And we go somewhere, they get weed, we come back to the apartment. And it's at this time we're like, I'm sick of getting hotboxed or just getting smoke blown on me. I haven't seen my mom in a fucking day. I don't know where she is. There's no one gonna get mad if I'm in the circle hitting on the blunt this time. So yeah, the first time that I would say that I actually like smoked weed in a group, in a session, inhalation with holding it in my own hands, smoking it, tasting it, having a little bit of the effects. We'll get into that later. That's just a weird circumstance where it would have been, it's that same day. So not only is it easy for me to remember the first time smoking weed, but I remember 9/11 extra because that ended up being the first day I would consider that I smoked weed, which is pretty crazy. But later on that night, I don't know, probably like 11:30 or something, my mom came home with pizza. And the only effect that I could remember having, like not necessarily being high, anything like that, but because of all the adults talking about what was going on, basically no one paid attention to this pizza. They all took like one piece of it and just were off discussing the bullshit that happened. And I'm sitting there and I pretty much eat the entire pizza by time that they came back for a whole fucking another slice or whatever. So that was the first time smoking. The only effect I remember is being able to eat practically an entire large pizza by myself. And then okay, so that was a freak accident. Okay, like I said, because of my mom's living style at that time, very soon after that, almost to the exact day, or maybe the next week, my mom ended up getting arrested and going to jail for like 2.5 years. That's when I moved in with my dad, and kind of went back to not having experiences smoking or definitely not growing yet. But later on, they came about. Now I'm going to bring it to where YouTube and that comes into play. It's 2005, start of the school year, freshman school year. And, you know, multiple places to hang out and, chill with neighborhood kids. Just so happened to be that I went up and played basketball with a few people. And one kid our age who was kind of a little bit more of a badass, way more than me at that age at this time, he had weed. And he asked a buddy, he's like, hey, here, I don't want to let a bunch of people in on this. Where can we go to smoke? And then I kind of tag along because I witnessed what was going on. And the guy who he asked is my buddy. So he said, oh, we can go over to my house. And we go behind his house and pass around a joint. And this little badass kid was getting mad at me for taking too big of hits off of his joint. But I was excited because this is the first time I got to smoke since, like I said, 9/11. Took 3, 4, maybe 5 forcefully big, large hits off this joint. Hopped on my bike and went home and sat down at the computer. And in that second, that's when I kind of felt a little bit more of like a tingly, mind racing, like thought provoking high. And I felt the opposite of bored because I just smoked weed and I felt this way. And I went on YouTube and I just wrote weed in the search bar just to see what happens if anyone had uploaded any types of videos of either people smoking or just showing buds or showing plants or anything. And there was some stuff. There was a little tiny bit of a community, I'd say, of people that definitely, I wouldn't say growers quite yet, but definitely people smoking and other channels like that. So this was around 2015, start of freshman year. It only takes, so long into your high school, experience where you start meeting more kids that they leave for lunch to go smoke or whatever. And that's ended up in the type of group of kids I hung out with and had more and more experiences of smoking. And I'll get it now into first plant that I grew. Maybe about the same time, beginning of sophomore year, we had an experience where someone had weed and it was maybe a large circle of people and we had a bong that we were smoking out of. And I saw someone breaking up weed, pack the weed, and then put it into rotation. He was breaking up more weed at the same time. Similar to the Vortex situation, I hit the first bong rip of this weed and kind of instantly know that it was really good weed. And then I kind of looked over to the buddy that was breaking down the weed and he's throwing out seeds. He's just throwing them on the ground. And I'm like, well, bad weed has seeds in it. I know that. And then this guy is literally pulling half dozen seeds out of this weed that I think is pretty good. And I'm like, hey, don't throw any more seeds out. Just set them to the side. I'll take them. And without knowing what that weed was, because I wasn't the one that got it, it was just told to me here at this, in that meeting of hanging out with that group of people. They told me it was lemon skunk. That's what I went off with. Okay, like I said, this was start of sophomore year, maybe in the fall before it got winter. Once again, I'm in Wisconsin. Big deal winters right here. 1.5 feet of snow right now, negative degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so it was already the fall and I definitely wasn't going to be germinating that seed and growing it outside. I held on to it until when it started getting nice out again. And this was late May. And I just so happened to have an empty flower pot in the backyard, pre-filled with soil too. Don't know how it got there, remember the story of why it was or anything. There was a couple ashed cigarette butts in it, that kind of thing. But I'm like, hey, I've got those seeds. It's warm out now. There's a flower pot here just staring me in the face. Germinated one seed out of that, what I thought was lemon skunk, little bag seed type deal. Ended up growing this plant, taking care of this plant. Just one plant. It's my first plant. This would be the year between sophomore and junior year of high school. Also, probably the peak of the high school summer party days. And, you know, I'll step back a couple seconds later, back in the story. I got my dad to be cool with me socializing, growing this weed plant, because he wasn't the side of the family. It was my mom's side of the family that were on the other side of the door that one time, saying that he's got glaucoma. It's good for him. Let's let him smoke. My dad wasn't that way. It took having to, like I said, we have regular glaucoma checkups. And they have a unit of measurement that they use to test glaucoma on your eye to see what pressure it is. And that kind of indicates how either good or bad your glaucoma is at that particular time. And I wouldn't have that great of checkups. Like I'd have just on the border of needing to have surgery or needing to have another pharmaceutical. When I was younger, I had more eye surgeries. Said attempt to fix the detached retina in my right eye that failed, and then just kind of routine, like I said, glaucoma pressure reduction surgeries on my left eye. Well, it took storing a bunch of grinder keef one time, smoking for the most part primarily pure keef bowl that actually had a little bit of bubble to it, being fascinating with that, trying to not melt it or burn it right away with the lighter, letting it bubble and getting pretty ripped one time before I went to the glaucoma doctor. My dad, he kind of didn't like me smoking, already had disciplined me for smoking several times. Like I mentioned in the beginning, on my Instagram, I have a picture of a dog. I had a opportunity to get another dog at that same time, and my dad, for disciplining me smoking for having a bag of roaches in my pocket one time, said that no, you can't get the dog. So he definitely wasn't cool with me smoking at this particular time, but I got away with smoking this big bowl of keef. He kind of figured it out, probably by the way I smelled of him taking me up to see my glaucoma doctor. And I was used to the particular number that I would get for the glaucoma test was anywhere between 21 and 26 ordinarily at this time. And I tested he tested me and I had 15 for my eye pressure. And my dad kind of looked at me like crazy. He's like, whoa, because he definitely never remembered in the entire time since he had custody of me testing that low on the eye pressure thing. And even the doctor was like, whoa, this is crazy. And he pulled out at this time before all the documents got transitioned to digital, a big fat binder of my life checkups and all that. And he went through it. He's like, yeah, you haven't had this low of a pressure since you were like 5. You know what I mean? So then my dad was like pretty impressed. And at that point, that's when he was okay with me growing that seed, because he saw at that time, like, oh, it really does help. It's we'll get into more bullshit later, how obviously what every one of us probably listening to now, maybe there's a really young person listening that is lucky in their entire lifetime lived in a legal situation, but had a really good checkup with this, and my dad was okay with me kind of even doing more growing stuff. And at this particular time in the summer when I was growing that plant, like I said, still had lots of parties, nightly parties at my house, going to other kids' houses, all this and that, the height of high school partying lifestyle experience. And I would always have to like take the plant and put it behind my garage before anyone got there. And, everyone, you learn your lesson about who you get to tell things or who you let know that kind of shit at that time. And it's the number one thing that I want to say, okay, love to hear is what came to my mind, but there's a better word for it that I can't think of now. But anytime I hear older people, like there's a lot of people in this community that are way more established in things, and the number one thing that they say is don't talk about it to anyone, and that should always be the first rule. And it's like gun safety rules, you know, that's the number one rule of growing, is never tell anyone. Maybe it's that way different, like I said, now for someone that's never had to worry about it. They got into weed or got into growing weed after it was already legalized. But another crazy story is because of me blabbing into my buddies, that plant ended up being stolen, of course. But for people that know less than you about weed, they stole it at the beginning of flower. They didn't come and take it when I was ready to chop it down. They just say, "Oh, he's got a weed plant. I'm going to take it." Well, you know, this in the same way where I shouldn't have opened up my mouth about me having a plant, people that knew what happened shouldn't open up their mouth about them knowing what happened to the plant. Okay. Well, we'll bring the story back to my cousin that I said goes back and forth from here to California. Turns out that it's a family friend of ours' little cousin, similar to me and him. Well, our family friend's little cousin convinced my buddy that knew that I was growing it to steal it and to bring it to his house. So because I knew that this happened, my cousin was like, "Don't worry, dude, we're going to get it back. Don't worry." And I always would hit up my cousin like every week. I'm like, "Hey, it's another week. The plant's getting more and more done. Hey, it's another week. It's getting more and more done. It's been like 6, 7, 8 weeks. Maybe you should go by and check on it, you know, take it back." And then he's like, "You know, I don't know. It's kind of, you know, we'll get to it," that kind of thing. And like I said, I always hit him up for weed anyways. I worked at our family's kind of like motocross, supercross paraphernalia store. You can get pads and helmets and tires and parts and order things on eBay. I worked there, and my cousin partially paid me in weed. So, and anytime that he couldn't write a check, he'd be like, here you go, just take 2 or 3/8 for free, whatever. So he was already who I was dependent on for getting weed anyways, at this time and up until when I got the Vortex and that whole story. So I ended up hitting him up for weed anyways, like going up and seeing him and be like, "Hey man, you have some plants hanging and drying too?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I had some plants growing too myself." And he's like, "Here, you know, you want this one? It's pretty much almost done drying. You can have it. It's fresh. It's better than the weed I got now." And I'm like, "All right." And he basically convinced me to buy back the weed that I started growing in the first place. He wasn't growing a plant. He went back and took the plant that I was growing like he said he would, and then kept most of it, but sold me whatever, what I wanted at this particular time, an eighth. And I took it back home, and I knew that it was my plant based on the terpenes and the structure of the buds, and you know, growing it for the whole veg period and maybe the first 2 to 4 weeks of it flowering. So I just laughed at that, but I cut my losses, whatever. And then
It's pretty ballsy to sell your own plant back.
it's a crazy story. I like it. It is pretty crazy, but you know, I could be wrong, you know, but I want to say that I'm not. I want to say that I had a intimacy with just that one plant already, that I knew what it was, and I could tie the story together pretty well. I mean, you know, it is what I told you. I pretty much figured out the math of it. But yeah, I'd rambled on for a solid chunk there. I mean, I still.
No. Don't let me interrupt. Everybody is loving the story so far. Please continue. Don't let me interrupt.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, mainly it's kind of similar to what I said about when I was back in Colorado, maybe in between that plant and up until when I wanted to buy Vortex seeds. I messed around growing bag seeds and clones that I could get from my cousin. Nothing really special. But one thing that you get when you buy lots of seeds on Attitude, which for in between 2009 and 2013, I was addicted to. We'll get into that Noah's Ark treasure trove that I don't have no more, or have a small portion of still to this day. But yeah, I got some blueberry clones from my cousin. He had a regular connection of blueberry, a couple different phenotypes, one that was just labeled blueberry and one that was labeled original blueberry. The one that was labeled blueberry was more of an indica and plain artificial blueberry tasting. Not quite artificial, maybe like a blueberry, fresh blueberries, like the first bite when you're chewing into them, and a little bit of like a sweet tarts, and then a very faint skunky note into it. And the more interesting one was the original blueberry, which had a totally different structure, didn't have a good nug formation, but had a way better terpene profile, which was like the way it had a totally different monoterp profile to, the way it smells in the air and when you crack open a nug, to the sesquiterpene profile, to where you're actually tasting it and how long the taste lasts into how much of it you smoke. So the way it smelled was more like that old man's cologne kind of shit. Like, I don't know, it smelled like an old man, kind of like tobacco and whiskey and cologne and that kind of shit. And it tasted like frosting, like a frosting on a blueberry muffin. It went from a very unique kind of cool smell, because it's like I said, I already said that I liked Vortex because I figured out that it smelled like baby poo. So something that smells like an old man, for whatever reason, appeals to me too. Those were two fun plants to grow that couldn't continue growing. But at that same time, I grew purple wreck, a very peculiar phenotype of purple Urkel to train wreck. There might have been other purple wrecks at the time, but the way I did the math and pre-Leafly and all those kind of days, the first result that I could find was DNA genetics. What was, like I said, wasn't a seed that I popped. It was clones that my cousin had access to. That I did get to grow 2 years back to back. So the second year that I got to grow it, the first purchase of Attitude seeds I got other seeds along with Vortex. And I did it during a promotion deal where they gave away like 12 free seeds or more. Like the promotion deal was 12 free seeds, and then the amount of seeds, they had that unbelievably free offer or something like that, the UFOs freebies that you would get too. So I bought a bunch of 3 gallons around the same time. There was a spring to summer grow there in between this time when I didn't know of a hydroponic store to go to get kind of like legitimate, like Happy Frog, Advanced Nutrients, trendy nutrients and bags, potting soils and that kind of stuff, to where I would go to the local kind of places like if anyone lives in the Midwest, Menards. You have a Menards, that's where I went for potting soil at this time, and 5-gallon buckets. I drilled holes in the bottom of 5-gallon buckets, filled it up, and this is a what's it called? Like I only knew about Subcool through the seed bank and that the strain, his menu at that particular time, Vortex and Attitude Seed Bank. We'll get into following Subcool and the Weed Nerd and all that stuff. But at this time, I already had the insight or instinct to make an amended soil based on what I found at this Menards. I'm like, this ain't gonna do what I want it to. And I remember my first soil mix, whether it's good or bad, what it was a few bags of potting soil to a bag of perlite, to a bag of vermiculite, to a few bags of mushroom compost. So only with knowing Subcool, not yet knowing his growing techniques in super soil, I somehow put it together that it's best to mix soil, make an amended soil and grow in that. And the first seeds that I grew from that purchase of Attitude seeds that I got was they already had automatics, or Attitude and greenhouse seeds were already pushing automatics. Then it was Green-O-Matic from Attitude, and grew out a whole 5-pack in these little 5-gallon buckets with my soil mix in there. It did really good because I did something that now autoflower growers know is a good technique to grow, is starting a bigger soil base. Don't transplant and try to get as big of a taproot to base out and grow in a root mass as possible. So these are pretty well structured and nice yielding autoflowers, even for 2009. And I remember them having a kind of a feminine palate. Like girls liked it because it tasted like pina colada, or like a coconutty type thing going on, a coconut pineapple type going on. I don't know if all the phenos of Green-O-Matic are supposed to come out like that, or my growing conditions and mixing it with that compost and perlite and potting soil and vermiculite, maybe it just imparted a better microbe and terpene response. But I grew out more of those freebies along with one Vortex seed, bought 1 pack of Vortex seeds. And like I said, I was addicted to purchasing seeds on Attitude. And every time I would make a purchase of whatever strains I wanted, whatever seeds I wanted at that time, I would always on top of the order add either a 5 or a 10 pack of Vortex, depending on what I had money for at that time. I wanted to save up to about 100 or 110 seeds of Vortex to do as far as I know, what Subcool was always letting out there was an F1. I always had the parental stock of a Space Dude male and a Apollo 13 female. So each time I was buying seeds, I was either buying seeds from the same batch or at least a new batch made with the same parents. So I kind of thought that was cool to have a collection of 110 Vortex seeds from, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 packs, whatever would add up to that. We'll get into why I didn't get to do a pheno hunt of that. But I thought it was cool. That's the incentive I had. But that particular summer, I grew a bunch of the freebies I got, one of those Vortexes, and a purple rec clone that I got from my cousin. Now, this time, I figured out about the hydroponic shop, and there was one that was at a few locations, I think in Illinois, and a few locations in Wisconsin. It was called Brew and Grow. From what I've been told, I haven't gone there in a long time. What I got told by my cousin, it's no longer in existence. Just sad. Well, I went there and I bought a few bottle nutrients. Remember, I bought like Liquid Karma from Botanicare. I bought Happy Frog soil. I can't remember if I had any microbes at this point, but I grew all those seeds and or clones in that and gave, I think I had a few amendments that I put in there, like Happy Frog bat guano. Want to say hygrozyme. I think I already had that. Grew out those plants and didn't get to pull the Vortex. I grew one Vortex seed out of these packs because, like I said, it was my intent to have a collection of Vortex seeds. I only wanted to grow one. Hoped it was a female just to have some to smoke on. Ended up being a male, and it was pretty awesome male. Like, even if I had more males to select from, my feeling was I got lucky, and that was a pretty good male to begin with anyways. It had a lot of resin, even in early flower, before I got to pull it. And it had a pretty hard, like lemon skunk profile, not the lemon skunk that I told the story about. Not similar to that, but not because it was the same strain. It just had overwhelming limonene and in the background skunky tones to the back of it. but I didn't get to see what kind of floral cluster it would have had. In my mind, I didn't even think it had opened up pollen yet. I thought I caught it at a good time. I did because the rest of the plants weren't totally seeded, but when you go through every last crumb of all those plants, you smoke every bit of it and you find 2-3 seeds in each one. I knew where those seeds came from, that male. The only seeds of those that I really wish that I would have had today, because of how good that purple wreck was. There's a bunch of other seeds that got pollinated, but purple wreck was crazy because out of the phenotype expression that a plant like purple Urkel to train wreck can display, it had like all the desirable traits or indesirable traits of purple Urkel and a few of the desirable traits of train wreck. Now, it had a slow veg time, which came from the purple Urkel. So this was good weed. It was very potent and very leaning hard towards train wreck terpene profiles, to where it smelled like what a lot of people like nowadays, burnt rubber. It smelled like my dad's 1964 El Camino when it did burnouts. That's how this plant smelled drying, but it had absolutely no purple color to it. And purple's in the name. That's why I was excited to have the clone, but it didn't have, the only trait that it had from purple Urkel was its slow veg time. Everything else displayed train wreck traits about it. But that would have been a good thing to go back to, just because of how potent that female was and how terpene rich and resinous that male was. That, to me, that would have had the best gene pool to go back and start a project of seed breeding through that. So at that time, kind of went indoors. Then I had more free seeds that I grew. I had sour kush, and I had actual train wreck from greenhouse seeds. Sour kush was from DNA genetics. And when I grew that, that was another weird ass thing that came out when there's plenty of people that already had heavily orange flavored strains at that time. And it was before that I can remember that DNA released Tangy. But it was very weird how this sour kush, which was, they labeled OG kush to sour diesel, came out super orange peel, really good smelling, florally weed, to where people who didn't know as much about terpene profiles, it was just dead on to them. I could open up a jar, let them smell it, and they smell oranges right away. It was obvious oranges. It was weird. So I just once in a while think that there's accidentally a seed. They have seed stock and they drop one seed in the wrong bin, and it ends up going to some lucky person, and they crack a freebie sour kush seed and it comes out Tangy, or somehow, yeah, whatever. Maybe you should have told them about it. Like, hey, I got a sour kush. It's OG kush and sour diesel. It should be fuely, but it's dead on to orange. It was really weird. And I had train wreck this time. It's the first indoor seed pop that I did after that summer and fall. And at this particular time, I had a grow buddy, someone to help me grow. And he was way more into racing cars than growing, but he was good at both. But both of us together are really good at growing and staying on top of a plant, making sure it had no deficiencies, researching what to do if it did, really big into flushing, that kind of thing. He was more into, we were buying seeds together, but he was more into keeping clones of stuff that he liked, which is should have dawned on me earlier. We'll get into why it wouldn't have been worthwhile anyways, what I'm leading to. But we cloned out the sour kush and train wreck, and because I had that vortex male, I cut clones of it when it was flowering before I took the actual plant down. And I knew so little of growing and how plants re-veg at this time that I thought the plant went through some mutation and was fucked up, because we had clones of this Vortex male, the Sour Kush, and the Trainwreck. And because I didn't have any cuts to that purple Trainwreck that I had, I bought Trainwreck seeds, which, you know, led to what was due to me having a previous experience with Trainwreck and being real strong. And, you know, the average run-of-the-mill strains that you would get back in the day, the Blue Dream, Green Crack, Sour Diesel, Trainwreck, White Widow, Sweet Tooth, stuff like that. I had that Vortex male, and it started re-vegging. And when it did, the flower pods went away right away, which was a good thing. But it went from, you know, the 7 to the 5 to the 3 to the single bladed things. And me and my friend both never seen that before. And we're like, you can't breed with this. Look, it's all fucked up. It's a mutant. You can't fucking breed with it. But we didn't know it was just re-vegging. We didn't give it enough time to come back and start looking like a clonable plant again. Shouldn't have thrown that away. Anywho, grew out another clone run of the Sour Kush and Trainwreck. We popped some more seeds. We had an OG18 seed that we popped that we grew into a mother, and then actually couldn't get clones to root from that. So then we popped a Bubba Kush. No, sorry, in between there, we popped Wappa from Paradise Seeds and Coltrane from Reserve Pravada or DNA Seeds again. Wappa was interesting, but not really much to talk about. The Coltrane was interesting. And at that time, it had the most frost on the outside of leaves that I had seen of any plant, and what I see today of like dessert type strains, you know, like original Forum Cut Girl Scout cookies. It had that level of frost on the most sativa narrow leaf set you've ever seen, where it was the leaves were kind of long, still kind of short though, but as thin as a blade of grass, and they had more space between each leaf than any other plant that I've seen at that time, and probably still today. It looked like a hemp leaf or something like that, but it had a ridiculous amount of frost on it. And it had weak stems that we had to stake and tie up and yo-yo. We cut that down, and we didn't have any real proper way of collecting hash other than a good grinder with a nice screen in it. And it made the most like white looking, well separated for the device keef as we've ever seen. And this will lead into me dabbing, okay? I previously had learned about what BHO was, and the book that I mentioned before with my buddy Surrounded by Keef, the old channel, or the old show we did, Getting to Know Cannabis. I learned about marijuana botany and BHO from the same person. Because mentioned stories about my mom and incarceration and neglecting me, and the same person that she rolled with at that time was the person that told me that stuff at a very young age. Once when I was really young, around those 9/11 days, and I had no idea what he's talking about. And then once again, later on, around that 2009 time period, he told me all about BHO and his experience making it and how fucked up it got him. I'm like, okay, it seems pretty cool. So right around that same time, maybe this is 2000. Yeah. Okay. Another timestamp for how I remember this is it was, if there's any UFC fans out there, it was when John Jones beat Shogun Hua for the light heavyweight championship. I don't remember what UFC that was. I want to say maybe 217, something like that. I want to say this was 2010, couldn't have been 2011. Had to be 2010-ish, wintertime. Going on Aqualab, aqualab.com, or it was Aqualab. That's where I had to go to get my first dabbing devices, and it was the ones where I don't have an example around here to show, but it was the drop-down looking thing that you stuck a glass nail in and put the globe on top of. And I learned so much about dabbing that I had the devices to dab previous to the tools to make BHO with. But we were looking at this really good Coltrane grinder keef, We're like, man, I bet you this is going to definitely be full melt. We can dab this. And sure enough, we did. I got that thing that day. We whipped it out, unpacked it, put it in a straight tube bong. Maybe it was a flask. I can't remember. I think it was a flask. Yeah, a flask bottom bong, or beaker bong, whatever. Put that little dab nail on it and smoked all this Coltrane grinder keef, and got really fucked up and watched John Jones win the UFC title, and obviously go on to all the shit, all the wins that he had at that, present tense. Yeah, but I got so high that my grow buddy and the buddy that I dabbed with, he left, and I had another friend come over and saw me melted to the couch. He's like, "Whoa, man, what the hell is wrong with you?" And he's like, "Dude," and I had to explain to him, like, "Dude, I'm so high I can feel it in my toes. I can feel the outline and the edge of my body in the toes. That's how fucking high I am right now." And from that point on, we'll get into it. Oh, my phone is sitting on the back of 2 jars of distillate that I'll show later probably, but not that I want to be dabbing distillate. It's just what I have access to right now. But with the glaucoma and another thing that I have, had undiagnosed scoliosis till I was 21, and had to have fusion back surgery on my back when I was 21. So the 2 things that I smoked for medically, for my whole life, I needed it, was the weed. And since I was 21, the scoliosis surgery. So we got real high off this Coltrane. First time I dabbed, gave me a great experience. I loved it, wanted more of it. And that's when I get into a whole nother portion of my backstory and what my knowledge primarily relies in breeding. Like I say, that's what I got the most passion for. I could say skill, but it's less applied. The more thing that I have applied, it's a like a Venn diagram, or like seesaw of what I have more skill and passion in, and what I have more passion and skill in. But the concentrates came next, and that went down from everything from uh, um, the turkey stainless steel turkey baster to the Sub-Zero open blasting setup. The still open blasting one, but the Sub-Zero one that you could pack with dry ice. That's pretty much what I dedicated stuff to then. I still smoked a little bit of flower, but any bit of trim and the bottom nugs of plants all got blasted from that point on, from like that 2010 till about maybe 20, up until I got busted, but 2011, because that's when I started, or 2012, because that's when I started getting dabs from other people, or my cousin would bring dabs back from California. Yeah, I got pretty good at that. And the only thing that we knew that was like the high tech at that time, other than a vacuum oven, pulling all the terpenes and all that shit yeah, Freudian slip, because you're accidentally pulling terpenes off as you're taking off all the residual butane. But we were big into de-waxing at that time, and I had a whole technique into, similar to how the tube was jacketed in outside column that you would put dry ice in. I would do the same thing with a Pyrex measuring glass with the handle and a 5-gallon bucket, and I would put the 1 liter fucking measuring cup in the bucket, pack around it dry ice, so everything that came out of the tube that was negative 40 degrees went into a container that was negative 40 degrees. And we'd wait maybe an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, and then pour through a vacuum aspirated Buckner funnel. And we would have pretty much de-waxed shatter then, if we would let it go to shatter, or let it evaporate in another pan. Here's the problem: when you evaporate it in a pan and it's summertime out, it evaporates quickly and you get more of a waxy product. And then if you were to do this on a night like it's tonight, negative a couple of degrees temperature with the wind chill, the butane acts kind of like alcohol, to where at room temperature, the alcohol doesn't vaporize much, and you got to let a Pyrex pan of RSO or alcohol or ethanol based extraction sit out, and over time it'll evaporate. The same thing happens with butane if it's way below the evaporation point of butane. Once you're in sub-zero, there's literally no evaporation of butane at all. You can let butane set in a vessel, and it's gonna take a day or two for it to all evaporate away, same as how it does with alcohol at room temperature. So like I said, we are already using a de-waxing setup, and on a night like this, we went overnight and came back to it in the middle of the night, or in the morning the next night, and we basically had what everyone now would call sauce and diamonds. Now, this was not separated because I had no idea to know ahead of time that this would happen, and it came out more of a mixed together, like cookie dough with chunks of THC mixed in with it. And because of the texture, I just put it aside, and I'm like, we didn't let it de-wax completely. And there's still waxes in it, and that's what happened. And if anyone remembers Brett Maverick from here on YouTube back in the day, he used to have Google Hangouts chats, and that's part of where I got to meet a lot of people, along with a lot of other growers and smokers that did Google Hangouts chats. And I told him that I was doing, and he kept telling me that that's THCA crystalline. And I'm like, how do I separate it? And he's like, I don't know, do the same thing you did to de-wax it. And I never did the same thing I did to de-wax it, because I didn't know about how much to, I never had that same situation in a like scientific setting to replicate or repeat that same thing that happened. This is a once in a lifetime thing that happened. It never was that cold again anytime that we processed some BHO. So that was a one-time thing that happened. I didn't know about techniques now where they have actually dedicated devices, like a de-waxing column. They have diamond mining columns where you can separate THCA and terpenes to have the high cannabinoid extract and the high terpene extract. But that was really fun. And those days, I would say, were my favorite period of growing. Beginning of the summer and flowering outdoor season of 2009, up until I unfortunately got busted in 2013. And if I want to get into that, it's the same. I'll repeat back to where the number one rule of growing should be never letting anyone know. And at this stage where I already had come and figuring that out about someone taking a plant, not only should I have never let anyone know, but I should have never even restarted talking to high school friends at this time. And basically, no, I ruined it.
At this point, I'm just curious. Well, I don't want to interrupt the story, but you more than deserve a dab at this point. At this point, you more than deserve a dab if you want one. I just wanted to give you a break to take a dab if you want one.
All right.
But man, it's been a great story so far, man. I knew this was going to be a good one, and it's been pretty damn inspirational, to tell you the truth. And man, very much enjoying the story so far. I just wanted to give you a break at some point. I've been sitting here chiefing, just fucking enjoying this whole story. And I felt just kind of rude that, you're sitting here, telling this great story, and I'm just,
I'm
being
surprised
rude and smoking.
I'm surprised on my end on the lack or the edge to brain farts that I've been on. There's a couple times where I felt it, but I'm almost like satisfied and impressed with being able to pull it all together. without forgetting anything. But hold on, another
Oh
dab
man,
might be able to do it.
no man, for real, man. All through chat, all through this episode, man, people have been giving you severe props,
Thank
man,
you.
at how great a story this is. And you know, as far as you know, the family issues, boy, brother, I can relate. So you
Yeah.
know, no hesitation there, and I can relate. My, yeah, I can definitely relate to everything you're saying there. I much my mom. I had a mother that had went on did a lot of other drugs other than cannabis, and there was more than one time where she left me and my brother to kind of bear for our own on
Mhm.
several occasions. So
Yeah.
I can relate, brother. I can
You
relate.
know what's weird about that time in my life though is maybe it's you don't know enough about the world to kind of fear it, but a lot of people kind of public anxiety about things or just being out in public, going to here and there and being in groups of people. But at that time, I don't know what it was, but 6, 7, 8, 9 year olds don't belong out on the streets. But for my willingness to want to be out there, have no fear, and like able to get from one town to the other, either by foot or by a bike, it feels totally different then and now. Like I feel like I was more ballsy and less hesitant to put myself out there and or more ballsy to put myself in dangerous situations than now. Maybe that's more of a perception thing. 'Cause like I said, I know more about life. And what do you think? Does
Could
that
be,
stand
could
true?
be. Yeah, I think you're on the right track there for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, I'd never thought about, hey, I should have more supervision or more attention or, I wouldn't say it in a disciplinary kind of way, but tabs being kept on me and things in an adult world and child's world that you get on to doing faster and before maybe appropriate time ranges and ages to be doing that kind of shit.
As far as things on a disciplinary way, it was kind of weird how that went because, um, yeah, I don't talk about this a lot, but me and my little brother were actually dropped off. My mother, because of drugs, uh, craziness, dropped me and my little brother off on my stepdad's porch when he was at work when I was 6 and he was 4. So a lot of growing up was me and him and dad working, being absent. So, you know, I always felt that that need to look out for little brother and kind of, you know, be that parent. So I kind of taught myself kind of morals and values and, you know, kind of watching out for little brother. It was weird, yeah, actually growing up. I remember like in high school being with my little brother and you know, it was weird. It was weird because I'd be like partying, but yet I'd be like parenting the little brother. You know what I mean? Don't be swearing. Don't touch that. You know what I mean? And that was just kind of the weird role I had growing up. So it's much different than a lot of other people's childhoods. That's for sure. But yeah, I think it without the parent being there, I think you kind of teach yourself wrong for right, and I think you stick to those values more seriously because they came naturally to you. You know, they weren't taught; they just seems to be common sense.
You know, you saying that reminded me of a similar situation where my sister has a lifelong memory of me being there for her, protecting her in the same house that I had the 9/11 first weed smoking experience. My mom would, stay locked in the bathroom doing drugs for hours at a time. And I would be pounding on the door, forcing her to get out and that kind of shit. And one time I got fed up with it, and she wasn't, you know, taking care of me or my sister. So I took my sister out of the house, and I went to we lived close enough walk to the zoo where I'm at. And we went to the zoo, and she didn't understand my frustration or even understand that I was pissed off with what was going on. So for her, in her memory, she always thinks it's like the day her older brother took her to the zoo just for no reason, just to be nice to his little sister. So I definitely relate with that with the younger siblings.
And I think I'm sitting here reading chat as well, and I believe Steve Collins says, "I'm 48 and still not grown, forever young." And Steve, I think I can relate to you as well. I've been told even I just turned 49 last week. Uh, my age, I'm constantly be told, you need to grow up. You need to stop being a kid. Stop being a kid. I think because of the way I grew up, having to be an adult at a young age, I don't think I'm ever gonna grow up. You know what I mean? I'm forever trying to reclaim that kid in me, and I don't want to
Yeah,
ever grow up.
that
To be
that's a
honest
little
with you.
bit what I mean about like how I felt as a 6-year-old to like I should have a little bit of that as an adult, because I would be yeah, I'd have way more willingness to do a lot more exciting things and try to do things to, whatever, jump on top of. I missed the dab song. I can still do it. I can keep going. I can do another dab just to play the dab song if you'd like.
No,
I
I'm not going to discourage another dab by any means, my friend. By
I,
any means, you want to
yeah,
take
I had a
another one?
little
Take another
flare up
one.
problem there. I have two picky torches. I got to use two torches for one nail. One doesn't light itself, and then one doesn't have enough gas or uh, hotness of its flame. So I got to combine forces to get a proper dab. That was one that was unsatisfying. So yeah, I'm going to be doing another one regardless.
Yeah, please do, my friend.
I
I don't try to play the dab songs during this episode. Is the
no,
same reason
that's a
why
wormhole thing.
it used to be a whole show kind of thing,
Okay.
but I learned some things during some great episodes that were temporarily lost due to my stupidity. So in that, I learned a few things, and that's one is not to try to play music during these episodes because
Oh,
like this is a great episode, and I
jeopardizing
would
it.
hate for the yeah, I respect you enough not to you've put a lot of time into this, and and told us all about yourself. The least I could do is not fuck this up and
Yeah.
have it taken down as soon as we're done.
Yeah,
You
and
know what I mean?
I'll take that. Yeah, the time to thank you for this too. That's I'm the two things that I like right now about being here is actually to talk to you and the audience, and for you to be reaching your hand out, and our short relationship of knowing each other for just a small amount of time, and you know not being whatever like in a push away type of attitude. You are welcoming and all about it. So thank you.
No, man. I thank you for checking out the channel and liking what you see, and you know
Yeah,
hanging
definitely.
out here for sure. And actually, this is a perfect time to kind of address a little bit of that. Why you get going there is we had a little bit of stuff in chat tonight, a
Yeah.
little bit of back and forth. Yeah, and honestly, it's heartbreaking to see that because what it was is like it was from coming from another platform over to here. And I kind of warned about the other platform being what it is. But I hate to see that because, I set this channel up to where, everybody can come and play. And it should be, a safe zone for anybody to come and play. Just so to see a little bit of division in chat tonight kind of really bummed me out. I really hope this is a place where everybody can come and be respected. That's one thing I've talked about throughout this whole thing is, everybody has an opinion and we should respect your opinion. We should be able to, me and you should be able to have this chat, and even you can say whatever you want, and as long as it doesn't offend or hurt anybody, I'm willing to listen to it. And because there's plenty of reasons to that, is because I'm not set in my opinion enough to think that I know everything. You may say something that could sway my opinion about my beliefs or prove me wrong. You know what I mean? I'm forever learning. And if you can prove me wrong and show me that my way of thinking is incorrect, I will adapt and accept your way of thinking. So I try to respect everybody's opinion and let it be heard. So, and with that being said, I like to think that if you say something that I don't agree with, that I'm also respectful enough to let you hold your opinion to yourself, and we can shake hands, walk away with that conversation, and come back and smoke a joint at another time and be friends. We shouldn't have to be redundant or caught up on an issue that is, you know, it's not life changing. It isn't what we're about or who we are. It's just an opinion. So, I move past these issues on a daily basis and wake up and want to shake hands and, hang out. Life's too short to be hung up on some small issues. So, with that being said, please keep the chats clean. I respect everybody and wish everybody to come hang out here night after night. If you guys want to hang out other places, you guys are completely adults. Do whatever you want. But when you guys are here and you see another member from another chat that maybe you don't you know, just don't address that person. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. And if the problem originated from another chat, please address that in that area. That's all I'm asking. So, you know, thank you for everybody that tunes in, and much respect. I have much respect for everybody that comes here and hangs out night after night. And I would like to see everybody turn up here night after night and turn up just because they like what's going on here. They want to learn about cannabis and they have fun while they're here. So let's respect that and just run with
Yep.
our love for cannabis, please. What are we looking at there, Red Pill?
That's
You're not dabbed up already.
the relatively usual size dab I take. I don't know. With distillate, I kind of just try to twirl it and be as clean with it as possible. Distillate's a little messy. Cheers.
Cheers, brother.
I took you off where the camera was mounted to plug my phone in to the charger.
No worries.
Yeah, that was a satisfying dab. So where I left off was right around the time where I got busted and why I had to move out to Colorado. A friend of mine seen me eating breakfast through the front window of my house. He was walking down the street, looked at my house, saw me in the front window eating breakfast, and came up to the front door. Wish I had a lie to make up to him, like, oh, I have COVID, go away. That kind of thing. This wasn't the time though yet. But ended up, he's like, hey, you want to hang out? Yeah, I'll come over to my house, and so and so, they want to see you and hang out and that kind of stuff. So that probably was the biggest mistake in my life, because they were the judgmental type kids. It was like too outside of their experience. It wasn't the same circle of friends that I said I left lunch period with to go smoke, that would have probably been totally okay with, and probably rather have me growing and keeping it a secret so that way they could get better weed all the time. It wasn't that kind of group of friends though. So on my end, they say that someone gave a tip that that I could be growing or selling marijuana out of the house. Now, we have all the court documents and everything like that. If I wanted to go deeper into it, I guess I could do a Freedom of Information Act and find out the exact, you know, rat type situation. My dad says that it was neighbors, our backyard neighbors. It could be, because at this particular time, once again, it was a harvest season. I got busted in September 2013. It could be the backyard neighbors. I did have a 9-foot tall Hawaiian snow plant back there that they probably could have seen. But it also probably could have been my friends that were either jealous or straight up scared that I was growing. Yeah, that's what I take away from it. And they do the normal thing when they get a tip like that, where they'll surveil the house. They would park down the street and watch who came and who left the house and that kind of shit. Reason to believe that when they took my phone, they went through all the messages and all that. That could have been one end of things that actually was one thing that kind of saved me, because people did ask for weed and I always told them no. I always had one reason, because I would literally tell them, nope, I'm making shatter with it, or nope, I'm not harvesting for another 2 months, sorry, that kind of thing. So there's no like that kind of saved me, because it wasn't like someone asking for some amount of weed and being like, yeah, X amount of money, come pick it up, that kind of thing. That was a good one good thing, that I was stingy with my weed at the particular time. And then man, I don't know how deep I don't want to know how public I want to get with some of this. I guess I can tell some shit. In this circumstance, like where I got busted, like I said, if I didn't move out of my dad's house in any period of this story. So this is all taking place at my dad's house. And back information scoot. A little bit to know about me would be, more about my parents and grandparents and stuff like that. Well, I was in the upbringing where you have a grandfather that shows you the proper way to handle firearms and be safe with them and that kind of thing. And when I turned 18, I started buying a few rifles and pistols. So those were there present here. And when you get busted for growing, that makes it a whole nother level of cops being pissed off about the situation. So because there was actually no dealing going on, their surveillance came up with nothing. Right? No one came to the house, picked up anything. No one left with anything. They had nothing to report on. And usually then they would go home. In a lot of states, that's about it. And that's all they can do. I live in a state where it's legal for anyone, including the police, just any old person and anyone, a citizen, police, anyone that sees your trash can go through it and take it, right? And I wasn't dumb enough to have leaf litter, the sticks that you're left over with, your stems and all that, no empty nutrient bottles, no scissors, no small pot, rooting trays, no old cubes or anything like that. That all got taken, and my dad took it to where he worked, and they have a dumpster for like construction and fucking a whole bunch of other junk that got dumped off to a whole nother offsite like industrial dumpster somewhere. And what I did have that they went through, which is crazy, is resi toothpicks, like cleaning a pipe. You get a clogged pipe you smoke, and they had trash, and they found resi toothpicks in the trash, and that's what a judge signed the warrant for, to kick in the door over that. That to them said that whoever gave him that tip was right. That yeah, resi toothpicks. That means he's selling and growing weed. You know what I mean? And that's how they came in. They came in, and that particular morning, I literally had the website to oh my God, first brain fart I had. Oh my God, the vacuum oven company Across International. Woo! I had the site and everything pulled up, and right to enter my fucking card number to order my first vacuum oven. I had it right there, and I was like, okay, I'm going to order this vacuum oven, Dad. I'm going to take a shower first. He's like, all right. And I hop in the shower, and then my dad comes pounding on the door like 3 minutes later when I still have the shampoo in my hair. And I'm like, shampoo in my hair. And my dad's like, Dad, or my dad comes in. He's like, son, the cops are here. They're going to bust down the door, that kind of thing. And then the cops coming in, they're coming in and they're pulling me out. I'm taking a shower. And I'm like, at least fucking let me finish the goddamn shower. And like I said, because I was literally full of shampoo, I rinsed my head under the shower long enough for them to scream at me and pull me out of the shower. And then at an awkward situation where the guy was polite enough to let me dress into clothes, but had to stand in the room with me to make sure I didn't go for anything in the dresser or that kind of fucking bullshit. And that was pretty fucking weird. And then, they just sat us on the couch and do the normal routine thing that happens to everyone, unfortunately. And the only thing to take away from that's any bit of interest, that don't want to PTSD anyone that I know experienced the same thing. But a couple nights ago, previous to that, had a weird instinct to rearrange the way I stored my seeds. And it was a good thing plus a bad thing. And I divided my seeds into ones that I intended on growing and ones I intended on breeding. And the place where they found a bag of seeds was the seeds I intended on breeding. And then I was left over with maybe 25 or 50%, somewhere in that range, of the rest of the seed library I had that I intended on growing. And I was really, anytime I ordered seeds on Attitude, the ones that I intended on breeding were the most, ones that brought me to the site, the reason I was buying seeds there. And then the seeds that I intended on growing were all the freebies and maybe some other stuff that I was interested in, but not so particularly dedicated on pheno hunting and going through breeding. But that's what happened. They they got the good portion of the seed bank. And the reason I went out to Colorado is because the only words that the judge said to me is how lucky I am, and I should think about moving to Colorado if I want to continue what I'm doing. And the only here's a weird current event thing that's going on. I don't want to set off more algorithms with flirting with the dab song or saying that thing the bug that's going around. But my particular lawyer that I had that said that the weed charges mostly got dropped. The only thing that my dad got charged with was owning and operating a drug house and manufacturing THC. And he got less of a sentence than 20 years prior when he got busted for growing in 1993. My dad got busted for growing, which is a weird thing because, like I said, he was pretty negative towards weed for me growing up, but he got his first marijuana manufacturing THC charge in 93. And the only reason why we didn't get the gun charges, 'cause that's what they were mainly upset about, is because of my dad's former charges and then me having my own guns in the house, which they went all crazy over and said that, well, because I'm blind, I can't really shoot a gun and those aren't really my guns. I'm just buying them so my dad could have them. And I told you about my grandpa and him bringing me up my whole life. First time I shot a gun, I was 7 years old. We got busted when I was 23 years old. Had plenty of gun experience leading up to that, and frequented our city or neighborhood shooting range. And they have like an attendance or sign up sheet there that you have to sign before you go in there to shoot. And that ended up saving me too, because they're like, this kid's blind, he can't shoot a gun, this is all a fucking lie. And then the lawyer who we had, don't want to name drop this, but the damn current event thing is, if anyone knows about that, the Kenosha shooting, and then the response to that, and the little kid that came to Wisconsin and shot other kids in the street, his lawyer representing that kid is who me and my dad's lawyer was, who represented us. So we had like the best lawyer at the time, way above, like, he has crazy cases, and he looked at me like I was a fucking waste of time. He hated me. He didn't want he was very, upset about having a whatever defend me, but it was a family friend, one of my dad's family childhood friends. Ironically, his either mom or dad is married to this lawyer's mom or dad. So they were able to get us the best lawyer. And he's like, I got way bigger cases than this fucking little pothead. But he was able to get the gun charges dropped because he went to two things. He went to the gun range and saw all my attendances on the sign-up sheet, which proved I was there and practicing and, could actually do what they said I couldn't do. And they said that there's no way to track that these all guns were registered to me, and I'm the one that was that physically bought them, and I have a record of that. And they were so stupid that they didn't even look in the gun cases themselves to find those documents. So the lawyer had like a private investigator hired that went there and went to the evidence and pulled it out and showed him. So then they showed, no, it's really his guns and he's really using them. And there's already Supreme Court rulings that say that someone living in a person's house that's a felon and can't possess weapons isn't a crime in and of itself to charge that person with possession of those weapons. So the gun charges were totally dropped. And like I said, my dad got a lesser sentence, only 2 years probation for the two charges that he got. And so the judge told me that it's the luckiest day of my life and I need to move out to Colorado if I want to continue doing what I'm doing, because it was, at that time kind of like a joke, like, oh, Colorado just legalized, you can grow weed there. And then almost right away I moved out there, but I had one of those eye surgeries again. Who could have guessed it? The cutoff to my medicine that I was growing, the home, paying attention to, taking care like it's a baby, plants like how we cherish, and then me extracting it and having the best pretty much glaucoma medicine on earth that was cut off. And I had to have another eye surgery, and I had to have this is the first time I had to have like something implanted. It's like a little tiny straw on the top of your eye that mechanically can release pressure if the natural things in your eyes can't do it for you. And that kind of brings me back into moving back into Colorado, and then getting access to what my favorite dabs that I ever got retail or medical was Green Dot Labs. If anyone's in Colorado or has ever had access to Green Dot Labs, that's probably the best the best thing I've ever had that I didn't produce myself in concentrate form. Once in a while I've had people give me flour that's as good as my flour, but like I said, I'm more picky about flour. I think there's more people in the world that can make as good of an extract as you can make, then there's growers that know how to grow and cure and dry and flush and store and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, I gotta say to you, and cheers to you, man. I paint some motherfucker, man. I don't have by any means have had the level of eye pain I'm sure you endure. But at one point, I had a condition called iritis, which is an eye infection where all three muscles of your eye shut down, and it's terrible. And when I had that, it was like so bad I had to have drops every hour, 5 different drops every hour on the hour to fight the infection. Otherwise, I could possibly lost the vision in that eye. And that shit was horrible. That eye pain was horrible, man. I have had my medical book. My medical book. If my you could put my medical file to all in one place, and actually make it. You know what I mean? A file. It would be probably as thick as a law book from
right. Yeah,
stupidity and
I remember
injuries.
when that switch happened, when my file got switched into a data form and in the doctor's computers offices from the old paper file. Like I said, it was like a thick, you know, like thick as a Bible type shit. So
That eye pain was by far the worst pain I've ever endured. So cheers to you, brother, for hopefully finding some comfort in cannabis, because that shit
well,
is
yeah, that'll
can be
lead into it
terrible.
because that what little weed I did grow back in Colorado and the access to them really good dabs. Not only is it really good for back pain that I had from scoliosis surgery, but it works so good for the glaucoma. Now it's not as where it taps into the pocket and would be real nice to be growing and producing way more than I could, need to supply on a daily amount. But yeah, if I go between 2 and 4 grams concentrate, don't really need to do 4 grams of like we're talking about live resin. This distillate, there's more magic to extract with terpenes in it by far than just a plain distillate. I end up smoking way more of the distillate than I do live resin, sauce, or extract, shatter. But 2 to 4 grams of any kind of dabs. I eliminated 4 different prescription medicines for the glaucoma, 4 different drops. My doctor called it full court press. That's what he always said. He's like, well, we have to maybe consider surgery because we can't give you another a prescription for it. You're already on full court press. So it's a good thing, but it's only because I can afford it right now. I mean, we now that I told enough of my backstory, we can get into like what I plan to get into now in the future. Like I said, I'm right here in Wisconsin. My dad has a buddy wanting to get his medical license in Illinois. Illinois they do have a medical home grow. You can grow 5 plants. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is managing or helping him grow, and we're probably going to grow one huge ass plant under one light. Optimize yield as much as I can, because there's no limits to what setup we can make. There's no limits to what kind of grow room we can build. I can grow 4 or 5 huge ass plant. Keep one mother and grow 4 huge ass plants, one under one light themselves, and then that's a good thing. So the only documentation of actual cannabis grow is going to be then, but that might not be till between March and May, at least another 2 months. But that I'm hoping is going to happen. In the meantime, I'm going to have a vegetable garden that I'm going to do. And the only content that I can provide that's useful is, like I said, the soil mixing, the soil amending. I definitely want to buy a microscope that I can get the camera attached to and do a lot of slide work and microscope work and build microbes. And that's the more end that I can, the teaching part of it that I can do. I want to get want to get more back active into the swing of things as far as doing stuff with the community goes. You know, like I said, me and my friend Keith, we did a show Getting to Know Cannabis, and your show and a few other shows, you know, that kind of made me want to redo that, you know, like re-inspire me to do that and make the best of my situation, you know. And to add on top of that, this is the vibe I was getting for like the past 2 weeks, maybe from the start of the new year. I had the Future Cannabis Projects that I watched the shit ton out of. One of my other buddies in Arizona sent me a link to one of those like breeding conversations, and he said that, hey, you sound like you could have a conversation with some of these guys. And then, do you know about this channel? And I'm like, no. And then I watched that video, but then it kind of, I had other things that I was fascinated with watching at that period of time. Whole another topic of discussion, or maybe another episode, is another thing I'm really into and really love a lot is comedy, stand-up comedy. And pretty much got addicted to the show Kill Tony. If anyone's ever watched that, if you've in the network of Joe Rogan's podcast and all of his buddies, he has a buddy, the person that helped him start the podcast, Redban, and the comedian Tony Hinchcliffe. They have a show, and it's sort of like the American Idol sort of format where you can go back and watch the shows pre-pandemic. That's what I would do if you want to get into that show to get an idea of how fun it is. But they basically have a random sheet to sign up on and a bucket, and at random your name can get drawn from the bucket if you sign up, and you're performing in front of a live crowd plus either a guest comedian or just Tony Hinchcliffe and Brian Redban, and they kind of, you know, either roast you or, you know, give you, if you do good, kind of, you know, give you tips and help promote you and, you know, kind of push you along, sort of like you know, as like a whatever reward for if it's your first time ever doing it and you're so good at it. They're like, dude, you need to do this, keep on doing it. So when I found that show, that was literally like pre-pandemic, that was right around when I got my dog. Got my dog Dash. If you want to see him, it's on my Instagram, Redpill710. Got him on January 6th or 7th of 2020, whichever one of those was a Sunday. It was a Sunday morning when I got him. And around that same time, I found that podcast. And even though I heard either Joe Rogan or Tony Hinchcliffe bring it up before, it was one of those things that I mentioned before with the algorithm when I first hopped on here. Like, even though I heard that, for whatever reason, I didn't find it until it was suggested to me. And it was right around their 420 episode. It was like maybe 417, 416 or something like that. And the first one I watched, I was hooked. I loved it. It's like, to me, that, you know, it makes me feel reinvigorated on a whole nother type of thing. You know, like that's a whole nother passion of mine that I would love to try to force myself to write anything I think of that, you know, later on, if I hang out more in the chats and in the wormhole type thing, it might express itself more, but definitely in Google Hangouts the past years, chatting with a lot of people, I'm very quick to where my brain will think something's funny. And I just like that whole thing of getting those kind of funny ideas in your head and writing them down.
Please come share. Please come share, Red Pill, because it'd help me out to know that I'm not the only one that fucking does that. Because, you know, I microdose a lot on the show. Mm-hmm. And then there'd be a lot of times where we're like in the wormhole and we'll be talking. And in the back of my head, I've got like a skit going, or, you know, basically almost the same thing, but in like a cartoon fashion or something.
Yeah.
And they'll stop and they'll be like, all right, what in the fuck are you laughing at? And I'll have to stop and be like, all right, this is what's going on in my head.
I think it's a muscle. I think the art of that coming to you, like the spark in your mind that makes you think that, writing it down, because if you don't write it down, you're going to forget it, especially if it's a spark in your head that happens a bunch of times. I just find now it's worth bitcoins or gold or fucking what's the other, Omani reals or whatever. It's very valuable information, and it's pretty unique to you. And I just think it would be really cool. I fell in love with that show, and I want to get back into doing that. I want to, like I said, have a whole lot more chats and have way more ideas. I think of it, like I said, as a muscle. The more that you do that, and then have the chance to, if you want, this is something that, you know, some people totally think is the last thing they'd ever want to do. But if you want to, you know, try that and be on stage and get in front of people and try and see if what you think is funny, everyone else thinks is funny. That opportunity on that show, Kill Tony, especially now that things are slowly opening back up and they're going to get back on the road and do shows again. And they're finally having live audiences again after 10 months of only having like Zoom call stand-up entrances and very small, like limited 10, you know, groups of other people coming to do it. It's getting back in the swing of things. And if it takes me so long to where it comes anywhere near me, and like either Illinois, you know, Wisconsin, or anywhere near me, I'm gonna eventually go down to Texas where they're doing it now in Austin and give it a try.
That's awesome. I hope you do. I hope you do. It's another thing about me is I love people that aren't afraid to go chasing their dreams. They want to try something. You should go out there and chase it. You know, there's living with a life of regrets, being older later in life, going, ah, man, I wish I would have tried it at least once. Well, you should have tried it at least once. There's no harm in stumbling and falling and laughing at yourself in worst case. Uh, but another thing I wanted to say while I got the mic here is you did resonate pretty well there with the Kill Tony show there. Obviously, there's a bunch of fans that watched the show in chat too, because as soon as you said it, it was like bang, 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 bang.
That's great. That's great.
I actually wrote it down. I'm going to go back because I love some good comedy myself. I wrote it down after you said it. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go back and check it out. Thank you for the suggestion on that.
So that's where I look. I think I'm real positive about as soon as it gets warm out, I'm gonna build a raised bed, something I'm gonna grow in it. I grow really good peppers, but I kind of want to put a trellis up there, and I've never grown eggplant before. And I was watching another comedian. I follow Tom Green, and he was eating barbecued eggplant. And on his channel, he does live streams of him cooking, and the whole time is like, I don't care if it looks like I don't know what I'm doing. I do know what I'm doing. He's like, this is good. If you were here right now and I put this in your mouth, you'd say, wow, that's really good. You know, so he kind of made his experience eating his barbecued eggplant made me want to grow eggplant, because I haven't grown that yet.
Is he still rolling around in the van doing his videos from like a mobile type of
he
show?
just, I think, went back on the road. The videos that I saw were him back at his house, just dicking around. Pretty much what he was, everyone else said that, hey, Tom, you're losing it. But I just thought it's something like we talked about creative sparks. I just see him just in a creative spiral where he's off in his own little world, you know, whatever comes to his mind, either when he's playing on the keyboard or how he's talking to the chat, you know, that it's totally entertaining to me. I had to go back on the charger a little bit. Let me see.
No worries. I just think it's funny though. You said, you know, people were saying that has he lost his mind? You know, Tom Green's a comedy genius, but that's one of those things. It's like, did he ever really he ever really on normal?
That's what I mean. It seemed like people that like they don't know that that's literally him expressing himself, you know. That's
Yeah.
sometimes what geniuses do. They drink and play the same 6 notes on a piano for 2 hours straight.
Man, I remember the old Tom Green episodes when he was on MTV running around, actually like drinking cow milk right out of like the
Yep,
cow
yep, yep.
udders.
I
And
remember that one.
he did some crazy shit, man. He did a lot of crazy shit, man. He was hilarious. He still is. He still is. I did catch that one when he was on Rogan not too long ago, and he's a funny dude still to this day.
Yeah,
He's very funny.
yeah. I subscribed on his channel the last time he was on Rogan's, because sort of the same thing. Rogan, I forget whose weed it was. It was like Mike Tyson's weed or something like that. But he was already drinking, and then Tom Green took like a fat hit of something. Did the total opposite of how Elon Musk hit it and didn't inhale. Tom inhaled, and he kind of like backed off of it. He's like, oh, I took a big hit of weed that's probably stronger than I'm used to, and then he gave him back the joint. And then I knew from that point on the podcast that his brain was fucking rattling. So I'm like, oh, I gotta. This is good. That's what reminded me of why I love Tom Green too. It's just that mood that he was in after that joint. And then I subscribed. I'm like, yeah, that's not weird. Another passion of mine is the disability with the vision. I can't drive, but for whatever reason, I'm addicted to like van life and box truck conversions into RVs and that kind of shit. I don't know why, but all those kind of channels I watch too. So I was like, oh wait, fucking Tom Green's living in a van too. All right, I'm gonna watch that.
Yeah, some of the conversion shows, I wonder about. I wonder about them. Some of them are really cool, but there is like a lot of shows now that are just like wanting to. I think they're just encouraging to live in a small space that it can be done.
uh, I call it. I don't know if anyone else calls this that, but I call it professional homelessness. That's how to be homeless, but a professional. Like you
There
get,
could. There's not. That is the dream, though, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
kind of in a way to be able to, go see shit and live a free
yeah,
life.
yeah. I love it. I mean, I road road trips pretty much everywhere. So you're out in Michigan, and I went to Michigan a lot from some of those good old high school days and previous, because my dad's godson played for Western Michigan football. So we always used to go out there and to Kalamazoo and to Ann Arbor, ate at the Bob's Big Boy in Ann Arbor. That was usually a pit stop there, and went to Ford Field for a few games. So yeah, just a lot of other stuff. I have another aunt and uncle that had a cabin up in Green Bay, so road trips there. Unfortunately, when my mom was incarcerated, she was down in Decatur, Illinois, so road trips there. Going back and forth to Colorado, that's a 16-hour trip if you're only stopping for gas. Yeah, and I'm like I said, I don't have the ability to drive it, so maybe I wouldn't like it as much. But yeah, to me, I would like the ability, because to me, I do think that's cool to have. Now, me, I might get the near closest thing I might get to that is being able to just pass a road and eye test, and then somehow having enough money for a Tesla. Somewhere in between there might be my only way to live out that fantasy. But I want to get a Tesla Model Y and have a whole bunch of shit in there, like like little camp stoves and except professional homeless shit, like the really nice tents, insulated tents, and gadgetry and tools and knives and all that kind of shit. You that's a bucket list type thing.
Oh, that's achievable. That's fucking achievable right there. I mean, we're not too far from like a conversion kit for your van that's like a self-driving kit. You know what I mean? Where you'd just be chilling in the back. You won't even have to drive. You'd be fucking doing this right here and be on your way to your next stop.
Get the email plugged in.
Yeah.
Uh,
That would be pretty badass right there, man.
I think I do want to take another dab. I got
ahead.
residuals left in here. The way I do these dabs of the distillate, there's always like the initial dab and then there's leftovers, but the way you treat it is the uptake or the cold start. So you get a little, you know, leftovers there. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, that's one of my beefs, I guess. I'm, you know, I've done concentrates, mainly hash, forevers. You know, I remember doing earwax. First time I really started doing earwax was like 2008, 2009-ish. Before that, oil, just cannabis oil, you know, really oil on a paper. But, you know, dabs were here and there, you know, when a friend had them occasionally. And then as of late, you know, the dab song doing the show, they become more and more. And then Sungrown 707 initially got me a rig in the house there. A re-gift from Kazoo. Kazoo did a giveaway. Sungrown won it. Sungrown was nice enough to give it to me. Thus started the dab habit. Ever since then, I've been dabbing on a regular. And
Nice.
it went from there. And I got an email. Hammered Emails was nice enough to send an email. And I think if it wasn't for the email, I would have maybe have gotten a little discouraged with the dabs, to be honest with you, because I could never really find that sweet spot for myself. You know, it was always too hot, too cold. My banger was always dirty as shit from me not finding that sweet spot, and so I was really starting to fall out of it. But once I got the email, I really liked finding that steady temperature. And it's nice.
That reminded me of yesterday's episode when Buddha was talking about how it makes you look when people aren't used to dabbing and they see you with the torch. Much rather prefer seeing you with some kind of electronic piece. And he was like, I don't give a fuck what it looks like. And I wrote, I totally agree in the chat. And then it kind of led into the same thing about devices that, you know, kind of help you and assist you doing that, and still maybe puffing on a vape pen or something, but you still want to go home so you can dab traditionally. And I was like, yeah, after 11 years of dabbing, you know how exactly to do it. You know, you get to knowing exactly the nuances of every different concentrate, bubble hash, rosin, distillate, diamonds with terpenes, sauce. You know, you kind of just, as much as you learn about the plant and how to grow, eventually you'll learn the techniques and the way to satisfy yourself with the best dabs.
So this has happened the other night, and and that's one of the reasons I was a little laggish too on the dabs. I very much liked the buzz of it, but I didn't really care for the torchy part of it, to be honest with you. And this is where that comedy guy in the back of my head. The other night we were talking about this, and for some reason I pictured Tyrone from the Chappelle Show. You know who I'm talking about, the crackhead? Tyrone from the Chappelle Show. I pictured him like watching us do the dabs and like, you know, his point of view, and like him going, man, we come up with that shit. We were ahead of our time. And I can't help but wonder if there's some of them older gentlemen who messed around with that long ago that see these dabs actually say that. They stole that tech from us. That was on the streets years ago.
Totally.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do.
Yeah, what's old is new.
But it either way, it's a good way to partake your medicine. It's sad that there is that connection, to be honest with you. But I do prefer the email because of that reason right there. I do still keep the torch to clean out the banger occasionally, but I don't mind. I don't miss not having to use the torch every time. To be honest with you.
Yeah. And then if I did put myself into one of those boats, like I said, if I can't explain it to someone that doesn't feel the same way because it's their medicine. How it looks is just how it looks, I still have family people like that. I go on a family reunion, and some of the family smoke, some of them don't. And the first thing that comes to their mind is same thing. They're like, "Oh, they're used." That's the same way that you use other drugs. You need a blowtorch to use them.
Right, and it's funny because I don't actually think that's the way they use it. I don't know, but I could be wrong. you know, uh, it it's sad because it is a good way to ingest the medicine, and it's you don't know if you don't know. It's but people are so simple minded, with the stigma still to this day. It's sad. And
I do have a bowl of
yeah.
flowers sitting right next to me as well, too. So
Oh, that's your preference, my friend. That's totally up to you. Whatever makes you feel good, bro. Whatever makes you shout out to people in chat, man. Chat's been pretty good tonight, man. There's been up to 95 people watching tonight. It's been a great episode so far, for sure, man. I appreciate it. Oh man. Cheers, everybody. In
also,
fact,
it
I was
looks.
getting ready. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'm right in the middle of torching. Sorry. It also looks bad too when you're on a crusty old nail like mine too, and I don't. You know, it's about time to invest in a new quartz bucket. I actually have this rig right here. This is one of my old classics. That's got a broken the 10 mil though. This is a 14. That one in front of me is a 10. I'd prefer using that one.
I'm gonna join you in that there. As soon as I find the good stuff. All right. Grab some of this apple fritter. This apple fritter, man. Oof. It's very few stuff I've dabbed out that hits me really, really hard. But if I take a extra large dab, or not even an extra large, if I double up even on this apple fritter, man, that shit squints my eye. I've even said I can feel my third eye squinting when I hit this apple fritter, man. It's just, woo, it's good, pretty good.
How are we running on time?
We're past the 2 hour mark. It's 20 to or 12 to 2 my time. But as we discussed, it's whatever you wanted to, it's up to you, my friend. How are you on time?
All right. I had fun. I mean, I'm sure I can dig up more stuff, but I'm gonna be around. I'm gonna be showing my face and be hanging around more. So just leave anything else, to come to me some other time. I pretty much said what I felt like.
Uh, right off the bat here, the American one says, please ask Red Pill if he's growing lips like sugar or is it surrounded?
Okay, yeah. Surrounded by Keith is growing that. I talked to him a lot. We have a weird Google Hangout thing where like some people still using Google Hangouts can make calls to some people, but I still talk to him on pretty much almost every day basis. Not so much lately since those Hangouts haven't been working. But yeah, he's got a plant growing, and I'm glad you brought that up because I have a little bit of analysis for you to help out know how that strain handles conditions. He's in an extremely hot area, and he also had some plants growing. It was a F6 mango sapphire, and the F6 mango sapphire took a pretty hard hit when he had a 100-degree temperature spike. But the lips like sugar, or if it's now called Amy's Aces, there's nothing wrong with it. If not, it loves it. So if you didn't know that already or didn't ever see that in those kind of conditions, Keef, or at least his phenotype that he has of it from seed, is heat tolerant. So, yeah.
Amy Ace is a good one. I grew it out. I really liked it. It was very, I put it in my social category. It was something I like to smoke around friends. It was a good conversation smoke. Brought out the smiles. Amy brought the smiles.
That's good. Am I? Is that a partial CBD? Is that like a 2-to-1?
I don't think so. I wouldn't. I wouldn't think so. Cheesequake wasn't had known for its
No,
CBD,
yeah, no.
and I don't think his parent, the other parent, is either. But
Okay.
it actually reminded me somewhat of Pennywise. I told him that flavor reminded me of Pennywise a little bit. Very good smoke.
Pennywise is a partial CBD though, one, is it? Right.
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, that you bring
So
that up.
okay, yeah. It's almost weird how in different gene pools, kind of similar traits almost look like they could be different phenotypes of the same plant.
Right on.
But but they're based in TGA genetics though, with the cheesequake, and the genetics of Pennywise is what Harlequin and JTR.
Good
I
smoke.
think.
Good smoke. This. I don't have it in front of me. That's one thing I can remember songs from my childhood, but crosses. Oh, I always fog on crosses. That's why I keep the books. That's why
Yeah.
I keep the books. To be honest with you, I'm always jealous of you guys that can ramble them off the top of your head like that. Um, yeah, it's up to you. I mean, like I said, it's there's spotlights or whatever you'd like to put into it. So if you've reached the end of what you'd like to discuss, we can wrap this up and start up a wormhole. It's up to you. And with that being said, I hope you do. I mean, if this is the end, this is the end. But I hope you do start popping on the wormholes. I mean, I was, I mean, if you're open for questions, I got some stuff, but I can't wait for you to just pop in.
Yeah,
The
same
Zoom
thing. I
numbers
just
are
want to hang out.
always the same, and Zoom numbers are always the same for the wormhole. So
Okay.
anytime that you want to pop in, you're more than welcome. More than welcome.
How does that work on when you cut off this one? Do I linger on for that one, or does you give it some time to start up that one?
We end this completely, and then I just start up again with the
Okay,
wormhole.
so whenever I
That's
want
usually how that.
in the wormhole, I can just show up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
the wormhole is kind of like Club Med, basically, for past guests. They can come and go whenever they want. No Stay as short or long as you want. It's, you know, club med for this, basically. I guess.
All right. I like it. So yeah, I had a great time. I
Awesome.
appreciate you having me on here. I hope everyone else enjoyed it. I partially the reason why I was really happy about finding the channel is because I did find familiar faces, you know, like American One, Bingus, Ready to Hit, Hot Fire. Those are all same people that we did this every single day for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years running, pretty much. So now I'm on Zoom. I can
Thank
hang
you
out
for
here.
that.
Yep.
Thank you for that, man. I appreciate you for laying down them early episodes and teaching people how to grow. I hope you do get back to it. That's for sure. And you know, as far as that goes, you know, I heard you do have a YouTube channel, but if you're ever looking to extend your content onto other platforms, you're more than welcome to do some lives over here and you know, your own show, your own format, go live during a different part of the day. Uh, I'm always open to, you know, content other than my own going out live here. So if that's something
Sweet.
that you're interested in, keep that in mind, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Other than that, the last thing I'd like to get from you is
That's
the
soundbite.
soundbite. I don't know. Yes, sir. Let me get this thing recorded here. And
Episode and name of the show and guest, right? Episode, guest, name of the show.
yep, and anything else you want to put on there, you can give shout outs. You can do whatever you want. This is your episode, your
Awesome.
shout out. Anytime you're ready.
All right. Thank you. Episode 320 of Fucking Talking Shit with Eagle. I'm Red Pill. Thanks and enjoy more.
Thank you, my friend. It has been an excellent episode. Everybody that has tuned in tonight has said nothing but great things about the pleasure of meeting you and hearing your story. It has been an excellent story, and thank you very much for sharing. And like I said, hinted to prior to going live, thank you for helping build this community another night of hanging out. That's
Yep.
the most important thing here is, you know,
Yeah.
we look for every night to hang out, and it's hard to do. It's hard to do without guests,
Good.
and
Yeah.
you were nice enough on a very short notice to come hang out, and I thank you for that, my friend.
It was the community vibes that made me want to do it. So that makes me happy.
Makes us happy. And I'll be looking forward to hanging out with you, hopefully here in a few minutes in the wormhole. But if not, at your leisure, like I said, this Zoom number is the Zoom number that will work for the wormhole. Please keep that, you know, and hopefully I'll see you in a minute. If not, I'll
Yep.
see you
Sure.
hopefully very soon.
Yep. Yes, you will.
All right. For those of you guys that are watching and hanging out, give me about 10 minutes and I will fire up the wormhole for sure tonight. Thank you very much for hanging out. If those you that do not want to join in for the fun after party, I can understand that, but I greatly appreciate those of you who have hung out, the 90 some people that have checked out the show tonight and hung out and listened. Thank you so much. You guys know the deal. Please do something nice for somebody. Random acts of kindness do save lives. Thank you so much for tuning in this episode. Thank you. Red Pill, you want to say anything? Any shout
Yeah.
outs before we go?
I wish I could see chat to shout people out, but I want to thank everyone who is watching, and I want to, you know, hang out more, and I'll chat with you, you know, more and more.
All right. Thank you guys. Much love. We are out of here. Thank you. Good night.
Yep.